Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Hassle Free RE podcast. I'm your host, Dave Menapace, and I'm joined here by my co host, Anson Roberts. And today we are going to interview Darryl and Ashley Medico, and they are short term rental co hosts, and they have a whole bunch of other things going on in the real estate space. But before we interview them, Anson, how's it going, buddy?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. We just got our first snow of the year here in Colorado, and so everyone's floundering, trying to get their heads around what this is, as they do every year. Yeah, I'm doing well. How are things in your side of the world?
Same. Yeah, we got our first flurry in Maine, and then popular ski hill. It's called Ward Hill in Massachusetts, which is where my son's taking ski lessons this year and where I took ski lessons 30 years ago. They officially are the first mountain open in North or hill open in North America with snow. And it was 75 degrees. Pretty cool. You'll have to check their website for how they did that, but it was newsworthy, at least up here. But no, things are good. Things are good. The portfolio has been doing its thing, and the team's been working really hard, and it's cool seeing people grow, within our business, but also bringing value to our owners. So with that, one of the things I know we were just talking about and figured we'd share with our listeners before we jump into the episode is, you know, when when coaching or when speaking with other folks who are trying to get into co-hosting, but really trying to launch any business, I think a lot of people at times struggle with opportunities to maybe optimize their existing business. In this case, it could be co-host listings or Airbnb or VRBO listings, mixed with the need to grow their business, get more clients, build a team. And a lot of people that get into co-hosting, typically they have another job that's taking up most of their time. Usually one of their constraints is time. And I thought it was interesting, I was on a call with one of my students today, and we were talking about some of their challenges to grow their business. And I found that situation to sort of be at the crux of the challenges they were having. So, what do you say to that? How does somebody take all these desires and opportunities and filter that down and prioritize so they can make progress towards their goals?
Yeah, that is a really common experience, and I know I have personally had that experience as well. And a absolutely center point for how to navigate that, at least for me, it's being able to make sure that I'm in a place of pretty high level of awareness of everything that's on the table. Because sometimes, many times rather, we can have all of these competing priorities that just swirl, and it just stays in this cloud, and we feel like it's insurmountable. But if you want to take a really old cliche of how do you eat an elephant, like you getting it down and being able to clearly define everything that's on the plate, and then literally putting paper to pen or finger to keyboard, being able to define which are the top priorities. And then from there, being able to step into, like, practically, again, for me, it's then looking at my day and blocking out in my day. Here are these time blocks from 10 to 12, from 12 to 2, and getting very specific, because I think for most of us, there can be a perception that I have all these things I need to get to and I don't have time. And generally, for most people, and again, speaking for myself, it was that my time was being given to other things. Like, actually, the time was there once I looked at it, once I evaluated where my time went. But it does mean looking at, oh, shoot, how much screen time am I spending? Like, where is it? Like, how much time is Instagram stealing from my life? Where am I, like, honestly just wasting the resource of time that I have? And once we are able to assess that, we have a clear definition of priorities. It's amazing what we can actually get done each day, but it does take a high level of intentionality. It doesn't fall into place on its own. What's your experience with that?
No, I totally agree. And I think area where people struggle is figuring out where they have time, like where can they grab time from to start working on things. And one of my favorite activities, and it's been a little while since I've done this, but anytime we really hire somebody, we do this. We do a 2 week time study, and every 15 minutes write down exactly what it is we're working on, except for when we're sleeping, and categorizing those activities into a few different buckets. And that is going to tell you exactly how much time you have over a 2 week period. And then I find from there, you can start to eliminate things, you can open up time. And then once you've prioritized your activities exactly how you're talking about, you realize, oh, shoot, I don't even have time for that one big activity that I thought maybe I need to break that down, or maybe I need to leverage that out, or see if somebody can help me with that activity. But I find having a deep and intimate understanding of like what your day and what your week looks like is where all of that starts. And if nothing else, you'll get a ton of clarity, because so many people approach me, and I'm sure they approach you too, saying, I don't have enough time. And I find that A, their time isn't being spent wisely, and B, they don't have enough clarity in their own goals to prioritize their tasks. And then the third thing is the actual prioritization. Everything can feel busy if everything is taking a number one priority, but if you can force rank those and then plug that into those times that you have available based on your 2 week time study, a lot, the roadmap writes itself is
Yeah.
usually what I'll say.
Well, and it's a really supportive shift in frame if you can move from the observation that I do not have enough time to the belief of I have all the time I need to realize all my dreams. Like, if even as a mantra, if you start with that, it changes the entire line of processing. Because if you operate with the statement of I have every bit of time that I could possibly need to accomplish what I want, well, then it's a matter of problem solving. Okay, if I do have it, then where is it currently going that I need to reallocate? But if you start out with the framing of I don't have it, well, of course, guess what you're not going to find? The thing you don't think you have.
Right.
And then just a random kind of pro tip from the time study component, which I would encourage, is one of the most valuable things any single person can do, especially in the place of being an entrepreneur, is do that time study. Because if you don't know where your time is going, you're not in control of your business, your life. But within that, as you're doing your study, and the first times I did this, I would have chunks of time where I would go to log it. And I'm like, I have no idea what I was doing. And don't let yourself off the hook. Literally write, I have no freaking idea.
IDK.
Right, exactly. Because at the end of the week, you're like, oh, geez, every day I have a couple of hours that I was doing something supposedly productive, but I don't know where it went. And then you can start to optimize and say, I will not operate in this level of like unconscious busyness. At least know that I am setting aside this hour to scroll. Like, even if you're choosing it, just make sure that you are in the know of where your time is going, where your energy is going. And it really is incredibly transforming to your whole life. And that's not an overstatement.
Oh, that's a perfect one for us to end it on. So awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Later down the road, we'll introduce a little more work you're doing in this space, because Anson's done a lot of studying in this field and has been coaching a lot of folks on really how to craft their perfect day. And we'll talk more about that as soon as I can pull more information out of them. So with that, why don't we introduce Ashley and Darryl? Now, this was a super cool conversation. From just a little background, Darryl is a coach in the STR Secrets mastermind. And so we've been working to get him on here for a little while, just finally got to align our schedules. But it's a family business that he runs. Him and Ashley operate Stay Space, which is a vacation rental management company based here in New England. Anson, what was one big takeaway you took from today's discussion?
Yeah. Their level of drive and commitment to creating the life that they want Like it's so evident. They had a life situation that worked, and that honestly most people would have maintained because it worked well. But they had a vision for something honestly bigger and more self-determining, with a high level of agency that captivated them. And to make that transition from a safe path to something that is honestly it's a large variable, it's unknown. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of focus, and they're inspiring in the way they've done that, even doing it together as a couple, which is, as you know, has its own challenges, right? So
Yeah.
what stood out to you?
I just think their trust in each other uh, was very apparent to me. And I think that they have a lot of trust in each other. They trust each other's judgment wholeheartedly. And I think that strong foundation that they have, just from, relationship standpoint, and obviously from a business standpoint, has really allowed them to grow and thrive. And I'm super psyched to see where they take their company and future businesses as this whole thing continues to develop and they create the life they want to live.
100%.
So with that, and without further ado, here is Darryl and Ashley. Welcome to the Hassle-Free RE Podcast, a real estate podcast where we bring you stories, education, and tips for investors and real estate enthusiasts. If you're interested in investing in real estate or just want to keep a pulse on what's happening in the market, then this podcast is for you. Thanks so much for listening and tuning in. If you enjoy our show, please make sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star review. We'd greatly appreciate it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hassle-Free RE. Today, Anson and I are joined by two very lovely people, Darryl and Ashley Menapace. So they are the owners of Stay Space, which is a short-term rental vacation management company based here in New England. And really, we'll let them introduce themselves and tell their story. So Darryl and Ashley, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us. I know we've been trying to put this together for a little while now, so I'm happy to get here and do it.
My hairline looked like yours. For the people watching, my hairline looked like Darryl's when we started planning this, and now it looks like mine, but we made it happen. Awesome. Well, obviously we're going to be talking about short-term rentals and your journey within the short-term rental industry. But why don't you both take us back, maybe to the beginning of that, when you thought about getting into them, and we're just going to peel back the layers of the onion over the next hour.
Yeah, for sure. So, it was in 2020. I had up until 2020, very successful sales career. Running sales teams, marketing teams in tech, healthcare, different spots. And in 2020, as most people, challenging year, and I was laid off, and it was an eye opener. Really wanted to put myself in a position, put our family in a position where, we were in control of our own income, in control of our own destiny. So I made the commitment at that point to figure out whatever that was going to be, and led me down a couple paths prior to finding this. And I remember I went to you and I said, I found this coaching program, this mastermind program. I think I could really sink my teeth into it. I think it'd be exciting. There's a pretty heavy investment up front to get the education and get this thing going. What do you think? You know what you said to me?
If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Simple as that. I was like, that's it?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, Ashley, why don't you just give a quick background, but then I want to spend a little time on that quick question and answer you guys had, because I think that sort of sets the stage for a lot of the success you've had.
Yeah, so I've been a labor and delivery nurse for the last 14 years. And so in 2020, that was an eye-opener for me as well. It was a totally different world then. And nurse burnout was definitely a real thing. And I felt it big time. And when he got laid off, he wanted to start this journey in the short-term rental world, and it kind of just like blew up from there. And the more and more properties he obtained, the more I kind of was like interested in joining and being a part of it. And I've always loved design and decorating my house. I always had my friends be like, "Oh, can you help me decorate my house?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Like I've always just had an eye for that and love for that. And we had a client that had a property that needed to be completely furnished from the ground up. It needed everything. It was completely vacant. And so that was like our first big couple project together, which was quite intense. A lot of yelling, a lot of late nights there, bringing the kids, and a lot of boxes. But we did it, and it turned out great. And so we ended up doing a few more after that, and we've just been growing since then. We've learned some things, how to make it a little easier for us, but yes.
Sure. Darryl, what was it about short-term rentals that maybe caught your eye? Because I'm sure it wasn't the only thing that may have been interesting when you had some of that time back after being laid off and kind of looking for your next move.
Yeah, 100%. Well, fortunately, I knew the game a little bit, nowhere near where the business is at today, through managing, a property that was in the family, right?
Okay.
So I knew the upside, I knew the opportunity, I knew that, or at least I thought I knew that, okay, well, it's not the most difficult thing in the world to manage. Again, that not at scale, right? So, it's a completely different ball game at 1 or 2 properties as it is at, 35, 40 properties, as we all know. So, but I was like, okay, no, I can do this. And I think the really interesting thing for me was, what I was hosting and what I was managing was doing really well, and I wanted to do more. But capital is limited, resources are limited, and it was a kind of a waiting game up until that point of, building up the finances to be able to go off and pull off another one. So, couple that with, the flexibility, some of the success stories I saw from other folks that, are that were having success running, building their own businesses. I thought that was a great opportunity.
What reservations, if any, came up for you guys when you were processing, making a step into this space?
Phenomenal question. I think, there's always a little bit of a level of, can I do this? Right? I think the biggest thing for me in starting this was, all right, I'm confident in my ability to be able to go out and find new clients, right? I've built an entire career doing that. What I don't know is how to start a business, how to structure a business, how to organize it, right? And do all those things. And truthfully, I'm still learning those things at different levels, right? Could I teach somebody what I did 3 years ago? Absolutely. Right. And if I had to start from scratch tomorrow and do what I did 3 years ago? Absolutely. But there's things even today that, that I'm learning, and I'll continue to learn over the next few years. Right. So I think it was getting over that hump, busting through that fear barrier. That was absolutely huge. That was the reservation, is, can I do this? And fortunately, I have a little bit of confidence and a little bit of moxie. And I said, yeah, I can do it. Let's go.
100%. That's so, I feel like that's somewhat of a ubiquitous, like, necessary trait from the entrepreneurial path, right? Is the willingness to look in the mirror and be able to say, I don't know all the next steps, but we're going to give this a shot. So really appreciate that.
And that sort of piggybacks off kind of a question I want to go back to. I find that, a lot of couples that seem to find success in this industry, they have trust in each other in some way, shape, or form, of their abilities internally and like the abilities of their partner. And it seems like for you, Ashley, you may have had some reservations, but you had a lot of confidence in Darryl over here. What was kind of running through your mind? Was there like a pros and cons, like, if we try it and it doesn't work, there's at least this? Or was it kind of like, I agree, you seem to want to do it. Let's go for it. What was sort of your headspace during that?
I know his ability to, like, I always say that he can sell cow poop to a farmer. He's a very good salesman, and he's really well at selling anything. I say that he schmoozed me and he got me. When we were dating, we were young. I was like 20, and we were joking. He's like, "Oh, you need to come back to my house tonight." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And he's just like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Well, if you have Guitar Hero, then I'll come over." And so he told his boss at the time, he worked at the mall, and he told his boss, "Hey, Eli, I'll be right back." And we walked down and he went and bought it at Best Buy. So he's like, "Now you're going to come over." So he's always been really good at selling things and getting what he wants. So I've never been, I wasn't really nervous about what he could do or him failing, because he is a very hard worker and he will stay up late nights all the time, and will make sure that he gets what he needs done. I also think too, he ended up keeping a W-2 when he started the business. So he always had something to lean on if worst case it didn't work. So it wasn't like he was completely giving up the sales world and a W-2 job until recently, which is like great for him. I'm proud of him that he was able to finally do that. And I know that's a big stress reliever for him.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and what I'll say is, and so for our listeners, I'll jump in and say, Darryl is one of the coaches at STR Secrets, a mastermind that we talk about quite a bit, with Anson and I both being in the mastermind as well. And Darryl's coaching space is around sales and how to get co-hosts, but just really anything sales related. And what I love about it is, I would, when I look at my own skill set, I think it's a strength of mine, but every single time I'm on one of your calls or just listen to one of the recordings, or I'm on a run or a drive, I always learn something new, and it always gets me fired up. Always. And I think you do a really good job, Darryl, of just problem solving. And sales, all that is, right, is finding a solution to somebody's problem. That's all it is. And I think that you have a strong knack for just like listening and understanding, and then applying what you know to see how it might help someone. And then in this case, it results in sales. But I think that's cool. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'm happy to hear you get value out of it, because you're also as another coach. I think a lot of times we're looked at as the coaches that have all the answers, right?
I know.
And we don't. We're always learning from each other, right? And
Right.
So I'm happy to hear that.
Totally. No, appreciate it. So what did the early days of the business, if we could go back maybe 3 years ago, what was it like when you first joined the mastermind? What were kind of the initial things that maybe you learned or you improved upon early on, and how did that business really come to fruition after that?
Yeah. I'm racking the brain on that one, only because there's a lot. I think for me, right, let's go back to just to my what I'm comfortable with, right? I was once I made the commitment to the program, I was full bore, 150%. I'm going to go find that first client. Don't know where they're going to come from yet. Don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but get out of my way. I'm going to find someone, to go back to what you said, someone that has a pain, someone that has a challenge, and maybe they don't even fully realize they have a challenge yet, but I'm going to find that person. I'm going to find the person looking for me. My brother-in-law always talks about that. Sales is just finding the person that's looking for you. That's it. So I'm going to find the person that's looking for me, and I'm going to just have a discussion, and we'll see where it goes from there. So I was laser focused in on that. And in doing that, I lined up, 3, 4, 5 potential clients who are still currently clients today in relatively real short order. And I stacked up the new starts pretty quickly, to the point where I was looking at her. I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, I need help with the design, because I have no idea what I'm doing with design. She always she'll always say, like, let's put a chair in that bedroom. I'm like, what do we need a chair for? Let's put a TV, right? And she's like, what do you mean, TV? What are you talking about? So
I mean, we did TVs.
we did
but
TVs also. I know.
Like,
We did both.
we need a chair. He's like, we don't need a chair. And you're like, oh, there's something missing. I'm like, yeah, a chair.
Yeah.
I need a chair.
So the learning, like, getting it all up and going, that came along pretty quickly. But then I had some stumbling blocks, like some big ones around bandwidth and starting it up and not leveraging my team, not leveraging resources as best I could. Ashley was talking about that first client that we helped out with, or one of the first ones, actually the second, not the first one, the second one. We had to do a complete, property furnishing, and guess who was doing all of the furniture? Me, right? And we would take 2 cars to the property, and the kids would be there, and she would take the kids home, and I'd be there until 1 a.m, right? And then drive an hour home and, get some sleep, wake up the next morning for my W-2, do my work, and then, get back into the sales road and then go back out there and, make for, I felt like an elf, like a Keebler elf, right? I was putting all of it together. So, that was the biggest eye opener, was I can't do this alone. And I really need to, leverage a team better. And I didn't get better at that until honestly about a year ago. And there's still times where I struggle with it. Because truthfully, not to come off cocky about it might come off a little bit to the listeners. I know this business really well. And there's times where I need to let my team fail, and I got to let them figure it out and not step in and not take care of it. And that's really hard to do.
Where specifically do you find yourself stepping in?
More around that guest contractor sort of empathy, communication, like that touch and feel of this business really has very little to do with the systems and the operations. Because fortunately, because of the mastermind, because of being in this program, like mastermind gave a really good sort of baseline of how to structure that. And then we've grown it dramatically different since then. But really, give a good baseline on that. So the systems and processes, I'm actually okay largely handing off. Like, this is what we do in this situation. This is how to go through it. There's that little touch and feel component that I still feel, to give that hospitable experience, that it's good if I step in and help on that.
Sure. If you're able, could you give a snapshot of what the business and portfolio looks like at this point?
Yeah, for sure. We are currently sitting at 36, maybe 37, 36, call it 36 listings. I don't want to over talk it. We manage as far north as just north of Portland, Maine, as far south as Cape Cod, as far west as Seneca Falls, New York, and then everything in the middle, predominantly pockets in the New Hampshire and in Maine, seacoast and mountains.
And most of those are managed units, correct?
Yes. Yeah. There's presently one that is owned by, as I mentioned, through the family. And then there's one that we're currently under contract for as well. That will be owned, but the rest are co-host managed units.
For our listeners, a little context, that one that you have under contract has bar none the best views I've seen. Like, this is sweet. A little part of Kim and I was sad that somehow we didn't figure out how to buy it, but we were also really excited for you. So I think it's super cool, and I'm super excited for that to come to life, because I think you're going to have a ton of fun in that market, and I think you'll have some fun using it yourself if that's something you guys choose to do too. So
absolutely.
Could you give a snapshot of that property, kind of some details on like numbers and kind of what stands out about the space, why you pulled the trigger on it?
Yeah, for sure. So go back again to, I think, what's becoming maybe the theme to this podcast a little bit, right? The who, not how, right? So leveraging a team, having great people around you. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate to know guys like Dave. And Dave introduced me to a realtor up in the area, Will Van Wickler. And Will, another phenomenal dude, very much an abundance mindset, like a lot of us are. And Will hit me up. He knew I was looking for a property, and he hit me up. He said, "You got to check this place out." And ran the numbers himself. I ran them. after the fact, but looked at it, and we've been looking. I mean, we were looking at how many properties a day?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like just like in looking in the North Conway market, looking in the Lincoln market, looking on the Seacoast, although that wasn't as interesting to me. Looking at lakefront stuff, Ohio, because she has family in Ohio,
Yeah.
Florida. We're just looking at a lot of deals, and I was looking, this just for the listeners too. This is in the Bethel Newry. It's actually in Woodstock, Maine. Sunday River ski resort in that market. And I was looking in that area, but not as strong. And this thing popped up, and for the price point, at the potential, return that that we're putting together here, it was a no-brainer compared to what the prices were, for other markets that I was talking about. So for the listeners, the deal, it's going to be a $595,000 purchase price. And the goal on the top line, as I hone in these numbers more and I look tighter, I'm going after $140,000 a year in top line revenue. Truly believe with these views and the way we're going to design it and the way that we're going to set this up and the amenities that we're going to offer, I truly believe we're going to be able to pull that off, which is even in today's market with the interest rates the way they are, it's still a 20% plus cash on cash return. So very excited for that deal. And we're not quite closed yet. And once we are, we're just going to be gangbusters and getting it ready to get it set up.
What all are you anticipating as far as preparation for launch? From like what level of redesign? Are you adding amenities? How are you approaching that?
Well, we're definitely adding a hot tub, which will be a plus. Outdoor lighting. We're talking about maybe a movie media room, video games. He's working with some contractors out there to there's a unfinished storage area that's like the size of a bedroom, so we're going to finish that, and we're still trying to figure out what exactly we want to do in that space. We're just thinking of like other little extra amenities that some places don't have, some places do. What were you talking about? Like he wanted to do something like maybe a little speakeasy area where we'll have like all these different kinds of glasses and shakers and drink things for people if they want to use.
There's a little like pocket door in the kitchen area that it's used as a pantry today. I'm like, who, when you go on vacation, who's using the pantry? Like, no one uses that.
Nobody.
You put your food on the countertop. Like, at least that's what I do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, in my mind, like, how cool would it be if we can like just set this up as almost like a hidden door, like feel to it, right? And put a bunch of like shakers behind there, and like a password sign. Like, I don't know, just something kind of funky.
Love it.
I love it.
I think we're going to do some hanging chairs like outside, because the deck has a great view, but then underneath the deck too, we could do some hanging chairs. Maybe if I can find a ski chair, ski lift, that would be really cool too.
Yeah, if any of your listeners have ski chairs laying around, we'll take it off your hands.
Up in that market, pro tip, up in that market, Sunday River sold off like hundreds of them recently, and a lot of people up there have them. Post into the Team Bethel Facebook group, like, hey, anyone looking to offload? I mean, heck, they'll bring it and install it for you. It's pretty cool. There's a good community up there of people that have that sort of stuff. And after you guys are like done and ready and launched and get a little breath under you, Ashley, I need to hire you to like redesign my place next spring. So keep that in mind. We're putting some money at ours after a couple of years. It's done really well. And we're kind of like, okay, it's ready for Logan's Lodge 2.0. So
yeah, let's do it.
I mean, need to compete. So
man. As y'all are evaluating that property, and obviously sounds like you have a deep understanding of the local market. Have y'all identified what amenities like make you competitive, and then which ones set you apart? What is kind of the baseline out there that they're like, is hot tub a requirement just as a cost of entry, and then what goes above and beyond?
Yeah, and so I think, definitely looking at the market, hot tub is a requirement for that market. I don't think there's any way to get around that. I think above and beyond that, just little things for your ideal guest profile. I don't think you need to, spend $1 million, and trick it out like you would maybe in the Orlando market, right? And, putting out the most baller game room and the most baller movie theater room. Like, I think we've been talking about maybe making that room a theater room, but I don't think, it has to be super, super baller in that case. I think it's going to be little things given who we're trying to attract, right? So, a really nice boot and glove warmer, right? Just something silly like that, right? Putting I made a list. It wasn't last night. What was the other things I was putting down on that? Like the boot and glove warmer was a big thing.
Boot and glove,
Hanging chairs. I know we were talking about that.
a massage gun. We asked some friends, like, what are some things that you would love at like an Airbnb? And someone said a massage gun. And we thought, like, that's like a great idea. You can get one of those, have that there. And especially after skiing, that would be like a good little something to use to have for guests. Dave, I see you writing that down.
Yeah, because I haven't used mine in 2 years. I'm like, why don't I bring it up in 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Wow.
Right in there. Take a picture of it.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe like I know we do like a coffee bar for all of our properties, so we'll have like the coffee, creamer, sugar, all that stuff. We might do like a s'mores station too, if we can make it work, and make sure that we can keep that stuff stocked at the property. We'll definitely try to do that as well. Definitely games for the kids.
Yeah.
What else do we want to have?
I mean, the way I look at it is that, again, going back to the ideal guest profile, we want families up there. We want, skiers, up there. Right. And then in the summertime, right, people that are hiking and enjoying the outdoors. Right. The views of this are amazing. It overlooks a lake. We can have fishermen there. Right. There's a boat launch. It's literally 5 minutes away. Now, the only challenge with doing those outdoor activities is that you need nice weather, right? So if you get nice weather, you're out, you're enjoying yourself. Maybe you want to come back for a little R&R and all those good things. But if you have a day that's got just a ton of rain and you just like can't, spring skiing in the rain, horrible, right? Going out fishing, yeah, you can go out in the rain, but again, probably, if you're not catching them all that well, you're not going to stay out there, right? So just having a really good space to be able to put your feet up, relax, that relaxed luxe feeling, and just having a ton of things that you can do at the property. So that way you don't have to go off site. You don't have to go and find things to keep yourself entertained. That's, to me, if I'm traveling, that's what's going to make the difference to me between, a property A versus property B, right? For Ashley, it might be a little bit different. She might be like, look at this amazing kitchen and look at this amazing, these furnishings and, design ideas, right? For me, it's going to be like, all right, what keeps the kids out of my hair, right? So,
right.
Those are the things that I'll be looking to kind of do in there and make it attractive to someone.
What's the feeling like, or how would you describe it now, taking years of your own experience and putting it into something that isn't somebody else's property, but it's your own? Like, how does that feel? What's that like?
I mean, it's super exciting, right? So, yeah, the question was just, how does it feel after, setting up properties for tons of other people, and now we get to do it for ourselves, and what's that like, right? So,
it's a little nerve-wracking.
For me, it's exciting because, we've spent now, 3 years, putting together amazing properties, with amazing designs, amazing amenities. And I kind of want to like relate it back to the genesis of this business. For me, anyway, I spent a career building businesses, selling, tech and whatever else, for a business, for somebody else. And there's certainly value to it and there's fulfillment to it, right? But there's a different level when you're doing it for yourself. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just different. Right. And, now it's okay. This is our property. We're going to do the exact same things that we've been doing for clients, but now we're doing it for ourselves. And that's just really cool to me. Like that kind of gets me fired up.
Totally. Yeah. It gets me fired up listening. That's why I had to ask.
And I really like doing it too, is that truthfully now when up until this point, I would go to a client and I'd say, yeah, you got to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Right. And I knew, and don't get, there was conviction. Right. And, Some clients, I don't want to do that. All right, well, then maybe we're not the right fit, right? I'm sure there's lots of other folks that can help and support you. I just know that this is what it's going to take to get this thing rented out at its top, at its best. But up until now, that's all talk for me, right? Now it's like, no, look at this. I own this one.
Right.
I literally am dropping the hot tub. I'm putting in the media room. I'm going all out on the design, the decor. We're doing the professional photos, like everything that I'm telling you to do, I am also doing. So
yeah,
I'm doing it for a reason.
Right. Yeah, it's not that you definitely. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I think this will be a chance too that I can really like hone in on like those little things that we should really have at all the properties that maybe I'm missing now at certain places, like different charging stations, making sure that those are accessible like everywhere in the house. I feel like those are really important. But my friends always laugh at me because I literally pull things out of my car. They're like, oh, I need this. Oh, I have it in my car. Hold on. Like yesterday we were at our kids' football game and 2 kids needed new mouth guards because it was like a playoff game and they were really checking everything. And I'm like, hold on, I have 2 mouth guards in my bag. I got those. So I think I'm going to have to try to like hone in on my little like Mary Poppins things where I just like pull things out of everywhere. We have those at all the properties.
Well, and you're right though. I'm sorry, Anson, you got it.
Oh, go for it, Dave.
One of the really cool experiences we had with Logan's Lodge, which is the home that we own up there, was, and we bought that before we were co-hosting, so it was a little different, but the difference was, when we bought our first STR in early 2019, things were obviously a lot different, but by the time we bought Logan's Lodge in end of 2021, Kim had gotten a master's degree in usability experience, and she learned a lot about how people use spaces and why they use things, and why is that the best drawer for the silverware? Like, why is that kind of the go-to plate? And like it goes on and on and on. A lot of what you were just describing, Ashley. And so to your point, when you own the property, there's no owner to say, I don't think we need that. I don't want to buy it. It's like, there are no rules other than rules you set. And I think that it's not like, I think because of that, I find that the properties we own tend to outperform some of the properties that we co-host. Not everyone, but a lot of them, because it's like, I can only bring an owner so far, and at the same time, you gotta realize you have a whole portfolio to manage, not just one property. So it's super fulfilling when you get to make the rules and do that. And then to Darryl's point, being able to point to something helps bring you through those more challenging purchasing conversations with a client, because you can point to yours and say, here's the numbers. And one thing I forget a lot of times, from our owners, and I have to constantly remind myself, is usually the things I'm asking them to do, they're not cheap. They're not cheap. Yep. And money's tight for a lot of people. And so it does help when you have like good data to back stuff up, but sometimes it's also a conversation you just got to let go. So you know how that is.
Sometimes I just say to my clients, I'm like, you just got to trust me on this one.
Yeah.
You got to trust me on this one. Like,
yeah.
Do I have specific data to say that a boot warmer and a glove warmer is going to, increase the nightly rate? Absolutely not.
Right.
But I know for a fact that little, I looked at them last night, $80 amenity, right, is going to make someone go, cool. That's
that.
One less thing I need to pack, or that's one more thing that's going to help make my trip more enjoyable.
Totally. What, if I could, I want to talk about the co-hosting business for a little bit. Obviously that started off as just the two of you. What does the internal team look like now?
Yeah. So, I mean, amazingly enough, right now, I think we're still very lean for the size that we are. So internally, you've got me at the helm on the operations and business management side of the house. Ashley owns obviously all things to do with design, but she also currently owns back ordering supplies in inventory for the properties. We then have a head of operations who is in the area, in the field, in the market, who can help out with the operations end to kind of just take a little bit of that off my shoulders to help me out with that. And then we've got a team of VAs, presently at just 2 VAs today, that are off and handling a lot of the guest communication and, contractor communication during the week, which helps relieve my head of operations a little bit and allows her to focus on more strategic, less of the tactical. And as the business grows, that's going to continue to evolve, right? So, my head of ops is going to take on more of what I'm doing today on the ops side, so I can focus more on the business management side of it. And then the VAs will own more of what the head of ops is owning.
Nice. Nice. And I already know the answer to this, but for our listeners, did a lot of, in your prior roles at companies, my hunch is that you didn't have all of these responsibilities that you have now outside of like the sales piece and maybe managing some sales, reps or something like that, maybe some projects. What was it like? Well, I have a few different ways I want to take this, so I got to be mindful of all the questions I have and any that Anson has. So bear with me here. Yeah, I'm going to pivot. I know it's pretty easy for Kim and I to tell each time we have like a new breaking point and have to hire a new person and onboard somebody, but it's always this push and pull. Like, do we spend the money? Do we try and get a few new clients? Like, this is not sunshine and rainbows as you're growing a business. It's, for me, been the hardest thing I've ever worked on. Ever.
Yep.
At least work-wise. What has that been like for both of you over the last 3 years, just managing the growth and the challenges that come with it?
I'll answer first and I'll let you dive in. For me, it's a blessing and a curse, right? This business and running your own business, doing your own thing, right? The blessing is I can come and go as I please. I can go to any event that I want to go to. I can, set my schedule however I want to set it. I can, I can live however I want to live. I'm not saying I don't, right? But I can. The curse of it is at the end of the day, the buck stops here. It ends with me. There's no one I'm handing this off to. So, in a previous sales role, after I sell it, it's going to go over to, an account manager, or it's going to go over to a customer success rep, or it's going to, whomever, right? They own that, right? Even if I have someone that reaches out to me, I can say, all right, well, no, contact this person, go do this, right? So, when you're running the shop and you're heading it up, that doesn't happen. So I've had situations where we've been on vacation and I've had to, go and visit a guest because I dropped the ball on something weeks ago. Right. I'm thinking one off the top of my head where we had a situation where the guest wanted AC units. Unfortunately, I just neglected to remember to install the AC units. They show up, they're like, it's really hot. Where are the AC units? I'll be there in an hour and a half and I'll have your AC units. And that was on a vacation that we were up at the lake, all of us as a family. I just look at her, I got to go. She's like, where are you going? I got to go.
Gotta go. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's the curse of it. There's just, no one to hand it off to. Now, that may not be the most perfect example because could I have handed it off to a team member in market? But yes, but it was my mistake, right?
And you were closest.
And I was fortunately we were actually close. We were staying at Lake Winnipesaukee, and the property was on, a little pond that was only about an hour away. So it wasn't the world. But
right.
That's that for me. That's the challenge of it. I don't know about for you.
I'd have to say that I feel like until this year, Darryl tried to shelter me from the business and not have me involved with a lot of things because he knew at some point he wanted to get out of that part of like the guest communication
Day to day.
and all the day-to-day stuff. So he did not want me to be involved because he didn't want me to get stuck in it once he got out. But I also felt like I was missing out on what was happening. So probably like March, April, I really started to be more part of the business and know the day-to-day and what was going on, communicating with the VAs. We had a new head of operations, and I think it turned the business around dramatically. And I think it made things more streamlined and easier to manage. Like we have more SOPs, would you say, I guess, for everything that we do now. And our head of operations, she has like 20 years of customer service experience, and she's wonderful. And she comes up with a lot of great ideas to help us.
Awesome.
But I think now that like I'm more into it and he talks to me more about the business, I think our roles are more clear and we have a better communication with what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because I think that's like the key is communication, making sure we're all on the same page, helping each other out when we need to.
What components of the business do you find, each of you individually, that you are actually enjoying the most? What gets your what's fuel in the tank for you when it comes to the management operation?
I think just that we can work at home together, like as much as corny as it is, I like having him around. Like I love that he works from home. Like I don't like him to like be gone. It's even though like I might hate him some days, I still want him to be around. But it's like nice, like even when we're getting guest communication coming through and we can just talk about it amongst ourselves, like we're together. So we're like, oh, hey, they're asking about this. Do you know where this is? Or do you remember where we put this? Or who cleaned this property last? And I think that's nice that like we're just always together, so we can always just like work whenever we need to, and if we need to hand it off, we can.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what fires me up the most is just the freedom, right? I mean, the time freedom, the ability to, humble dad brag here. My son made the football all-star team just a couple of weeks ago, or week or so ago, and kind of a big deal. He's 10U and he made an 11U team. All right, so like over the moon, super excited for him, and he's super excited. And it's like last minute, you're going to Naples, Florida, first week of December for a week-long tournament. I don't have to go to a boss and say, hey, can I have this time off, please? Can I please have this time off? Right? I'm gone. We're out the door. We're gonna have a great time. Let's go down there, play some football, see some sights. Right? Like that's what fires me up the most. Just being able to be able to move and pivot like that without wondering if I have enough PTO.
And when did that become possible for you? Like coming out of the gate, starting the management operation, were you able to do that? Or is that something you've been able to work yourself into?
No, I mean, I for what, the first 2 years of the business, I still had a W-2, right? I was balancing that. I was balancing coaching in the mastermind. I was doing some consulting. Like I had a ton of different irons in the fire for quite some time. And, it's so true. Like if I could give one piece of advice, I would say, if you have the ability to completely leave and focus, like if you have the ability to leave a gig, a W-2, and completely focus in on your passion and on whatever venture it is, it doesn't have to be real estate, it can be anything, do it. Because fortunately, Mike Sjogren, head of the mastermind, STR Secrets Mastermind, he pulled me aside. He's like, dude, you are way too spread thin. So we're gonna like pull you off of some of the stuff that you're doing for STR Secrets. Like he gave me the old, we're and I'd recommend that you just focus in on Stay Space. And it was the best thing a coach could have said to me. At the time, was I a little perturbed about it? Absolutely. But it was the best thing he could have said, because then 8 months after that, I'm like, I'm leaving my W-2. I'm done. Like, Stay Space is where I need it to be. And now able to double down more in the mastermind program, coach more, help more, and like it was the best thing that he could have done. So the learning lesson there is that if you're able to do it, and fortunately I was able to do it there because the stay space was in a good enough spot, right? That it was like, all right, it's just this next layer that I got to get this thing to. So that's, like that was a big moment.
The transition of where our energy goes, and like having something like a W-2 shifting into running your own operation, it's absolutely, there's components of the practical needing to make sure bills are covered and that kind of stuff. But I'm curious for both of you, since you're both have gone through this transition, what does your internal process look like? Because there's like an identity piece to this as well, right? Like you understand yourself in a certain light as a certain kind of person that does a thing. What does that internal process look like for each of you as you've made that transition?
It's interesting for me just because of the so actually I'll take it even before I started this business. I had another sales mentor that once said this to me: every sale that you go into, act as if you're independently wealthy and you don't need the business. And that was extremely, profound and powerful to me, because the more that I observed other salespeople, the more that I honed my craft, and we all know it. We've all been a part of it, right? Just go and, I don't feel like, I don't want to knock anybody who might be listening to this, but like there's a lot of bad salespeople that sell timeshares, right? And you've all been in those presentations where you can feel the salesiness. You can feel the, I gotta close this guy. I gotta, and my paycheck is hanging on this thing, right? And it's ugly. It's not a good sales process. No one feels good about it. The salesperson doesn't feel good. The buyer doesn't feel. Nobody feels good about it. So if you go into that with the mindset that I am independently wealthy, I don't need this business. I want the business, but I don't need the business. It's incredibly powerful, right? From a sales perspective. So I had that going into this. So, for me, as I built this business, luckily, again, I had some great people around me in the program who helped me step into it, that I'm no longer Darryl, the salesperson for a tech company. From day one, I made sure that if someone asked what I did, I would answer, I'm a professional short-term rental host. That was it. Like literally from day one of signing up for the mastermind program, I didn't have a single co-host property yet. I had nothing. Right. So, that was certainly just a huge moment to be able just to step into that. And it made it a lot easier. It made it a lot easier just to own that. I don't know about for you.
I'm learning to be like that with Darryl. I'm not as good with the sales as he is, so I definitely always pull him along with me if I'm taking on a new client, or maybe a client that's not going to be ours. They just want design help. I always bring him along with me to help with all the sales part of it, to make it sound like I'm more than happy to help you, but like I don't need your business if you don't want to have mine.
Yep. Yeah. It's just I coach this a lot on my Monday coaching calls, right? And like I have one coming up later on today. It's just an important thing to understand that everyone you speak to may not buy from you, and that's okay. Like that's perfectly okay. But you want everybody to leave that conversation being like, dude gave me some value, and he knows his stuff, right? And that's it. Like for me, everything I go into, is exactly like that. And again, go back to that mentor, independently wealthy. I don't need the business. I want the business. I don't need the business. It's incredibly empowering, sort of little credo that, hopefully that can help someone that listens to this.
Well, I think that supports the relationship with the client long-term as well, right? Because if it's not, man, power dynamics can get a little screwy there. And you you likely would not be able to always operate in their highest and best service, because you're wondering if you're going to be able to maintain them. You're viewing them as being in this elevated position versus you being the professional in the equation, and they actually really need the value you bring. And so just out of the gate, it sets a tone for a relationship that's honestly going to serve them the best, 5 years from now, if there's a respect both ways in that. So I love that.
Well said.
Awesome. So where are you both looking to take your real estate journey over the next few years?
I'm at a point now where I'm looking at Stay Space and I'm saying we will continue to grow. We're probably not going to continue to grow at the scale that we have grown at, right? And the pace that we've grown at over the last 3 years. Definitely much more targeted in that growth, and much more selective of who we partner with and who we grow with. I think on top of that, certainly looking more into the hotel space with partners, maybe eventually on our own, right? But right now with partners, and then more ownership opportunities, right? And more so that we're doing this for ourselves. I think those are the three areas that I'm really keen on and really focused in on. And then down the line, this was this first half of it, was such a fun journey and building and scaling. I did that a lot in my sales role. When I part of being a salesperson was building companies from a certain revenue to another revenue. So I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. And I don't know when the time will be, and I don't know what that opportunity is going to look like, but at some point later on in my life, doing it again with something else, starting something up and pushing it and driving it and being more knowledgeable of this experience to be able to pull into that. That's for me. What about you? About the same?
About the same.
About the same.
I'm not trying to start my own or anything. He tries to get me to start my own design business, but I'm too nervous right now. But he's already trying to put that into the works.
Oh, it's already happening. It's already happening.
It's actually registered, and you got an EIN, and
your bank
LLC
account set up. Website staged.
Yeah,
EIN's already created. It's already.
You've had about 100 posts on your company Instagram already, I've seen. So, no, that's cool. It all happens at the right pace. You both will know when it's right and when it's not right to move and do things and start new projects and whatnot. I love all the value you both have brought. I think not only to just other people that want to either get into co-hosting or just real estate in general, but also how to navigate some of this stuff as a couple, right? As a family, which is its totally own dynamic. One of the things we didn't talk about, but I'll do a quick plug, is that you both are going to be authors in the next Hospitable Host book, which is pretty cool. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about that? Yeah, why don't you tell us about how that journey is going so far, or what you hope to do with it?
Yeah, that's super exciting. And again, completely something new. For me at this point. I remember, I think it was right after we left Nashville. I had talked to you about it because you had just got done. I think you were in volume 2, right, Dave?
2. Yep.
Yeah. You just got done doing it, and I don't know, maybe because I was just in the process of building the business. I don't know what it was, but I just was like, well, I mean, that's not me. I'm not there yet. It really just wasn't in my mind. And I saw you do it, and we're all pace setters for each other at different times, right? And just like, right. I'm like, dude, I'm proud of him. That's so cool. I'm like, well, maybe I can do it, right? And I think I brought it up to you real quick. You're like, yeah, why not? And then Julie George, had connected with me, and we were just kind of chit-chatting about it at one point. And then I'm like, I pinged her as I was leaving. I'm like, hey, I think I'm more interested in doing this. Let me know what those next steps might look like. And then got in touch with Jody, and now kind of fast forward a few months now at this point. We've written the bio for it. We're actively writing the chapter right now. and it's a whole unique, interesting process of just kind of diving into that and writing this thing up and, trying to find that passion of like getting down in word, right? That's the challenging part around that.
That's awesome.
It's
That's
super
awesome.
exciting. And I think you said to me, you're like, how often in your life will you get the chance to be a published author?
He was really nervous about it at first, and he's just like, should I do it? I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like, this is awesome. Like, you should be very proud of yourself. It's huge. And I'm like, and you can tell your clients this, like, I'm in Hospitable Host 3. So
yeah,
I think it's great.
And it's a cool networking community of authors. It's really cool.
That's actually been really amazing to me is, just, being on the Facebook groups and just, being a part of that. And now, seeing some of the events that are going on and some of the podcasts that are going on. I had no idea. Like, I just thought it was just write a chapter and, that's it. All right. See you later. But just seeing the whole community behind the scenes is really amazing.
Yeah. What's also neat too is some of my biggest mentors that didn't know they were mentors to me. They just had written other books and I had followed their journey and, then to be in books among them and very easy access to people that I thought like, oh, I'll never get to meet that person has been life-changing for us. And then getting to have a drink with them at a launch party or at these different conferences and then actually getting to talk and hang out and be like, oh yeah, I forgot we're all human. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool. For the co-hosting side, let's say someone somewhere in New England wants you to manage their property. How can they get a hold of you guys?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, absolutely growing, looking to take on new clients. Love to talk to anyone. And even if we don't partner up, I guarantee I'll provide some value that you'll just be like, oh, cool. Right. Or I'll, point you in the right direction to do it right. So, you can find us, our website, stayspace.net, STAYSPAC.net. What the heck is our Instagram handle? You'll know that better than me. So I'm not like the social media guy at all. I'm just like, it's funny because they talk about different generations and what social media platform they're on, right? So for me, like, it's Facebook. It's only Facebook. That's really, I'm not even on Twitter all that much. And
you might say MySpace there for a moment.
Yeah. I mean, if it was still there, I mean, it was Tom, right? Tom was the founder of my MySpace.
Yeah.
Tom had it right. Tom knocked that thing out of the park.
You have your song, everything.
I miss MySpace. You could designate your top friends. Can't even do that,
So if you want Darryl to manage your property, find his AOL.
Yeah.
What is it? Your AOL page or whatever.
Absolutely. But no, so stayspace.net. Instagram.
Rentals. Stay_space_rentals.
Yep. And then the Facebook page. I'm just typing Stay Space. I'm sure it'll pop up.
We can get that all in the show notes too here.
Yeah. Don't get too stressed on me right now. We'll take care of it. So with that, as we start to wrap up right now, maybe you could just answer for us, what are you most proud of over the last few years?
I'm proud of what he built in the last few years. Like, I was just totally amazed on how he just found everything that he needed to build this business, and just like making an LLC and writing up contracts for clients and keeping track of all of it. And then just building with like the VAs, the cleaners, what can we use to make our life easier? And I just think it's amazing what he's done in the last 3 years. It's something really great, and he should be very proud of it.
Yeah, and for me, it's I'm proud that able to give Ashley more of her time freedom. I'm proud that my boys can look at this and just understand that there's options above and beyond the traditional 4-year degree of going to school. Not that anything's wrong with it, but just that there's options, right? And I kind of always make the joke to an extent of, it's not like our high school guidance counselors did us wrong. But growing up, there was no really other option of what was preached, right? It was, if you want the American dream, then, get good grades, go to college, get more good grades, get your job, go buy a house, right? And again, not there's anything wrong with it, but there's just different ways that you can live your life. And at a bare minimum, I just hope my boys can look at this and they can say, all right, I can start a business. I can go to a trade school. I can go to a 4-year college. I can go to a 2-year college. I can go live abroad, right? Whatever. I can figure out what fires me up, right? So when Cooper and Bryce both say, they ask a question about the business, they ask a question about a client, or they ask a question about something, that to me is I get really proud about that, because it's like, all right, they're seeing it, they're feeling it, they're hearing it. They just know that there's a life beyond what's traditional, or the way you have to do it, right? There's no way you have to do anything. Find what you're passionate about, find what you love, and go do it.
Yeah, well, I think that's well said, and I appreciate the example that y'all set. It's amazing, and I think that your kids are well served by what you built, Darryl, but actually how you're jumping into it, and yeah, they have something really amazing to look to. So I 100% applaud and resonate with what you shared, Darryl.
I love it. I think that's a good note for us to end on here. That was awesome. Well, Ashley and Darryl, thanks so much for taking the time this afternoon to share your story. Super cool. We'll have every way that people can get a hold of you in the show notes there. And I think we might have to have you back on maybe in a couple months once the house in Maine is up and launched. It'd be fun to kind of just talk about that house and the process of bringing it from closed to reopened for guests. So
I think that'd be a lot of fun. Love to do that. We'll take pictures of the whole process, and
yeah,
we got a shotgun start here, because we will get our first renters in by the end of the year, right? So
that's awesome.
The date today is October 30th, and we're going to close at some point no later than November 11th. Yeah, 10th, November 10th or 10th. And then we've got that week I just talked about. We're going to be going to Naples, so like we've got a lot to do in a short period of time. Yeah, you got a couple holidays in there, so
I love it. I love it. Well, it's super exciting. I'm excited for you. Pumped that all 4 of us have had the opportunity to just work together, know each other, and I think it's a lot of fun. So, with that, thanks so much for joining us. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.